hit the block. I hit the block, pop, truck, o'clock. The block is hot, the block is hot. Yeah, them boys is out, but we don't stop. We getting money, fuck they talking about. Dolce Gabbana the drip, gelato was stinking the whip. Yeah, some EO shit. Strike out you fuck that little bitch. Bitch go tick tock, look at the flick of the wrist. Getting the national dip, little diamonds gon' drip. What's that? Behind my lip, ice drip. This in the movie shoot clips. So don't get hit with the stick. The dirty be up in that shit. The dirty be up in that shit. Run up on me, you get hit. My niggas shoot, they don't miss. Rock about love, I does this. Karate chopping hitting them bricks.
Welcome, folks, to your Reality Gurus, the show we take a commonsensical approach to issues through complex conversation. You know I'm your host, G. Cleve. And folks, first things first, get in the comments and say good morning, good morning, good morning. I got my man DB. Yeah, got Shay. And you know, y'all need to always go check out that youtube.com/Reality Guru show and consider subscribing. Here's the show today, man. Y'all see the title. Evolution of Black Parenting in America. Now, let's go ahead and just define that a little bit, you know, because I come up in an era where, you know, spankings and, you know, things of that nature was common. You know what I'm saying? I also came up in the era where, you know, at 18 years old, man, you need to have your decision. Your mind made up is what you was going to do. You know, I didn't have anybody that was going to keep me in the crib past 18 years old. I need to figure it out. After I graduated high school at 17, man, I had to know what I was doing. And I get the impression nowadays, man, a lot of parents are, especially black parents, are holding on to their kids a lot longer. I don't know if this is out of fear of, you know, what's to come for them, you know, once they step out into the world. But I think it's I don't think that's a positive thing, folks. I really don't, man. I think this world, I mean, it could be real harsh, man. And if you're here coddling your children from ages, you know, from infant to 18 years old, I don't think you're really preparing them for what's to come once they step outside of your household. But again, that's just my thought process about, you know, feeling like, you know, I want to get them prepared. How do you guys feel? I mean, are you guys in line with the idea of holding on to your children until they're 25, 30, 40 years old? Or are you with the idea of trying to prepare them for what it is they're going to have to deal with by the time they're 18? Not to say that they have to, you know, but let's talk about the preparation. How do you guys feel about it? Let me start with Shay today, man. Shay, in like, what do you focus more on when it comes to the parenting? To holding on to your children or getting them out of there as soon as possible? Talk to me.
I think I did both. You know, there's aspects where I did both. As everyone knows, I have 4 boys. 3 of them are actually gone and out. But my oldest one, if you will, I kind of held on to him a lot longer than I did the other 2. So,
no, why's that?
And I think it's because I really didn't think he was ready for the world, if you will. You know, because he has some other issues, if you will, that I thought would hinder him. And mommy coddling him, and I guess, you know, there was other dynamics along with that made me coddle him a little longer. So, you know, I think that I did him a disservice now, thinking back, because when he goes into a situation, he has a situation, the first person he calls is mommy. Mommy, what should I do? Mommy, like, are you curious? Figure it out. Like, why are you calling me? You're 23 years old. Figure it out. So then I have a son that went into the military at 17 years old. You know, he was actually in the military at 17 years old. So, and he's now 20, and he's done 3 years in the military, almost 4 years in the military.
Wow.
And he lives on his own, and he's independent, and he bought his own first car. And then I have another son that went through some issues growing up, you know, with the system, if you will. And now he's in the Army, you know, and he's stationed in Germany. So he's in a whole nother country by himself. But, you know, what mommy taught them is still engraved. So I think I did a combination of both.
So if just to ask this follow up, since you're talking about three sons in particular who are past the age of 18, or at least close to it, right? What the part that I want to know is, as far as your oldest son is concerned, you say you held on to him for a little longer. Is that because he was the first, or was it because there was really some things that you saw in him that you felt that he wasn't ready? Because I was thinking you was going to say because it was your first son. You know how that goes. You know, women had their first child and they want to hold on them. You understand what I'm saying? So I was thinking that's where you was going to go, but you kind of said something else. So my question would be, if he wasn't exhibiting whatever issues you're saying, Would
I
you have
think
planned on getting him out of there?
it was both of those that you said, but then also the fact that, as everyone knows, I don't hide it. I was incarcerated before, so I think a lot of that had to do with that he had to kind of be the spearhead for his little brothers.
Hmm.
And so therefore I felt like he grew up faster than his younger brothers. And so therefore I wanted to keep him there to kind of, give him that mommy love that I felt like I didn't give him due to me being incarcerated.
And with the fact that when he does need assistance, he's constantly calling mommy. What is it that you think that you can? Is there anything that you think you can do about that to change that situation? Or you think it's just pretty much what? Excuse me.
I think it just is what it is with him,
Excuse
to
me,
be honest
folks.
with you.
That's pretty much what it is.
I think it's just what it is. I think there's times that, I make him, I don't never let my son fall and hit rock bottom. I'm not going to let any of my kids fall and hit rock bottom, but I think I let them fall enough that they realize that, what, oh shit, I got to figure this out. And then once they come up with solutions, then I come and I help and I aid a little bit, but I don't feed them and do everything that I possibly can.
Here's
There was a debate, great debate, if you will, and G, me and you had this debate. Um, I furnished my first son's whole apartment, when he got his first apartment, but at the same time, I did that because my mindset was I don't want you to concentrate on not trying to get you the furniture and all of that. I want you to be able to pay your rent and survive and just be successful. That
hmm
was pretty much where my mindset was with that.
Well, I mean, I don't want people to mix what it is that I'm saying. I'm not saying abandon your children. What I'm saying is to set up the structure or system in your household that kind of mimics what they will see once they leave. You understand? You in this household coddling these kids. No one's going to coddle them when they get out of your household, especially if they're black children. You understand?
Well, I
So
wouldn't say I coddled them.
well, no,
I wouldn't
no.
say I
Well,
coddled them.
this wasn't even directed to you. I just wanted to be
Oh,
clear because you mentioned about furnishing the apartment and stuff, and I wanted people to understand that support that I'm good with. You're furnishing his apartment. It's outside of yours. I mean,
hmm
there's the responsibility as far as parents, to try to pass on some wealth. I mean, that's something that I work on. So if you had the means to furnish his apartment, but he's going to pay the rent, that's fine. I mean, you're
Yeah,
his
but
mother.
then see, let me be clear with this furnishing apartment, so that we are very, very clear. And this is where I say I taught him more standards because here's the thing, and it kind of goes back to one of the other topics we're going to talk about saving money and using money wisely. I
Hmm.
furnished his apartment using Facebook Marketplace, so
Okay.
everything in his apartment I got used, except you know, uh, washcloths and towels, obviously, but everything was used. Got his living room set for $176. Got a 40-inch TV for $50. So I made sure that he understood that, in furnishing his apartment, you got to use a budget because at the end of the day, you don't have the finances to be able to go into Raymore and Flanagan and get the furniture that you want.
And that's those are one of those essential lessons that's key because we just had a conversation on Cam about this idea of, and we're gonna get into that. Yeah, I'm about to jump to you now because we had the conversation about the Jordan conversation. Yeah, we were just having a conversation of Cam. You said, there was some talk about, conversation that you was involved in where the talk was that young black kids should have a pair of Jordans, if sometime in their youth and things are like that. And I'm saying to you, Shay, it's important to explain to your oldest, that lesson. Like, look, you need your place furnished, right?
Right.
We ain't breaking the bank for it. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna figure out how to make this thing work. And if you don't like the furniture that you have, then that should motivate you to get your ass up to make a little bit more money, so you can go ahead and
Pretty
replace it
much.
with the stuff that you want. But yay, go ahead, talk to me a little more about the that thought process. That was going on in that conversation where you were saying that individuals was feeling that youngsters, black children should get a pair of Jordans at some time in their youth. Well, what was that? How did that conversation go?
Okay, well, this is from conversations that have been going on in the black community. The whole buying the Jordans nostalgia. Should we be even buying expensive shoes like that? But specifically in this conversation, it was buying your children expensive shoes like that. When the conversation first started, I'm thinking like, oh hell no! I mean, the black community has too much materialism as it is. We're supposed to be teaching our children basic fundamentals, and we're already throwing all this materialistic bullshit on them already.
Right.
But as the conversation got deeper, I started to see how the Jordans or the Nikes or even the lesser expensive shoes, but not necessarily the Payless shoes are the ones they'll get clowned for, were attached to their confidence. You know, just building their confidence as children. You know, as children, they don't have too much to build that confidence with, specifically in a paradigm like school. So to them, amongst their friends, that's one of the few things that really matters. As adults, we may look at it and say, man, those are fucking shoes. I send you to school for your education. But to a little person, that matters.
Well, I'll say this. There's something to it. I do think there's something to that. It's just that for me, I think it's a dangerous path to walk down.
Slippery slope.
I think it is.
Can I mention something? Because I think partly, G, you made a good example earlier with Shay when she was mentioning buying furniture for her son secondhand, and you know that basically if you want better stuff to actually go out there and buy it yourself. I think there's a life lesson in this shit. It's basically if your kid wants the Jordans, have them work for the Jordans. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Have them actually get the money up to get the Jordans and teach them truly about how consumerism works. Don't just give it to them, because I think that's when the slippery slope becomes the idea just that materialism and the status and basically getting it any kind of way. If you don't teach them a proper way to get it, that's when that shit becomes a problem.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
you know, like.
So now we're talking about the difference in age range in between the kid that you may say, hey, you need to get out there, sell newspapers and cut grasses, cut lawns to be able to save up to get them shoes, as opposed to, like, let's say the kindergarten or the first grader, you know, it's just new to the world. It's just new to this social.
But even that, you
Even
could
at
do
that
that.
age, you could do
Yeah.
that. Absolutely.
Because it doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, you go out and get like a job, you know, attributed to a kid, but you could teach them in your own household. You teach them, you do this, that, you do that third. I'll give you a little bit of you know, change and teach them just the idea
But I think.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, DB. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, teach them the idea of basically entrepreneurship and how money works and economics and all this other shit.
I agree with that, so long as you don't use grades as a way for them to earn money. And the reason why I say that is this. It's funny. I had a debate in school when I was doing my master's, and one girl was like, "Yeah, I give my child money for A's," and I'm like, "So you give your child something? You give your child money for something that they're supposed to do? So they're supposed to go to school. They're supposed to get good grades. So you're supposed to do these things. So therefore, you're rewarding them for what they're supposed to do. So I think that you got to kind of, it's like a gray area on how you want to do that.
All right,
you know what I mean?
folks, let me get ahead and jump into the synopsis here. Hearing everything that everybody had to say. I'm going to focus on Shay for this one quick second, especially with this last thing that you mentioned. Here's the thing, man. Entrepreneurship is what, you know, I teach in this household.
Absolutely.
Doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is, you know, gravitating towards it. That's not really the point. I put it out there just so, you know, especially, you know, my children understand that they have options. When I was coming up and I was being raised, and this is no disrespect to any of the, you know, my guardians or anything like that. You know, it just wasn't in the family. It wasn't in the household. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't something that we did. Entrepreneurship wasn't anything that was discussed in my household. Apparently, really wasn't discussed in any of my relatives' households. You understand what I'm saying? Because if it was, then I would have seen it. This whole rewarding for A's that you mentioned, you know, that's I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Because I already told you before, as far as school is concerned, I don't really, you know, public school, and I'm not excited about it anyway. You know, the critical thinking is what I believe is what's going to allow your child or anybody to navigate through this world, and you don't learn how to critically think in school. So
Absolutely.
Okay. So how can we use school in a positive nature? All right, you make sure these kids.
No,
wait, hold on. How what I'm saying is you know, how can we use school, look at school in a positive way? All right. So now, in order for him to get an A, he has to do some work, right?
Absolutely.
So if I could care less about what it is that he's necessarily learning because I'm teaching him here at the house, then I can use
Mhm.
the school and I can use the motivation for him having his money. That's the motivation. He wants the money. So go ahead and get these A's. You're making it productive. At the end of the day, what's that mean? He gets his diploma. He graduates on time, right? He has dynamite grades. So if he wants to go to college, he can. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
This is how I use school and, use that bread as a carrot to teach this motherfucker before he even knows he's being taught. You understand what I'm saying? That Mr. Miyagi effect. I used to tell Dade
So
about
here's
that.
my question. Now I'm gonna throw a question to you. What happens when you don't have the money to give him? And now he suffers and don't get the grades because the only reason why he's getting the grade, the A grade, is not necessarily because he's putting the extra work in to get it, but he's doing it because he wants that money. Then what do you do?
Well, if you're talking about someone who cannot
I'm just using that as an
all right, and
example.
I'm saying if you're talking about someone who can't afford to maintain that, then you shouldn't start it. Then you need to figure out something else to compensate them
Right.
from. I'm saying if you have someone who can afford to pay their child for their A's, I don't see anything wrong with that because at least you're getting something from it. I know people who give kids allowances and money and they don't demand anything from them. You understand what I'm saying? So far be it for
Right.
me to criticize her behind that. But yeah, seems like you got
I'm not.
something to say about that. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'm not knocking the lessons that teaches. Hard work,
Mm-hmm.
rewards. You work hard, you get rewarded for that hard work. I'm not knocking that at all. And for the parent that gets to the point to where they can't afford to pay that kid for them A's, you need to practice with. I'm not saying you specifically Shay. I'm saying for
Oh, I
those
don't
type of
do it. I'm gonna tell you what I do for that, but I'll
they
tell
have
you.
to, they got to practice what they preach. If I'm saying you need to work harder for them A's, I need to work harder to pay you for them
Exactly.
A's.
If you made that
Ain't no
agreement. Exactly. Ain't no
but a slight undertone that I'm starting to hear in this conversation when we're dealing with public schooling is starting to hear a slight overtone in this conversation of they really ain't teaching our children shit.
They
So
don't. They teach to the test.
when we talking about the evolution of black parenting in America, I think at some point we're gonna have a realistic conversation on, are we gonna have to start taking our children out of these schools? Are we gonna have to start to set up some type of infrastructures within these communities for homeschooling to teach our children specifically about their experience in America if the public school system is not catering to that? Because if we want the most productive black young black men and women for our community, it seems like we're gonna have to do it ourselves because the schools are not giving them what they need to be productive in the society.
Well, that goes, Anya. That goes for anything. I mean, I think the primary teaching starts at home. So for instance, I know that. All right, let's go because it's funny because my neighbor, he's an educator, and we were talking about the regents diplomas versus when we was going to school, we had the regents and the RCT, and we had the option to take one or the other, right? And if you did decide to take the regents, as long as you passed it in math and in English and one other subjects, you got a Regents degree. Versus now, they make them take the Regents diploma. My thing with that is this: they teach to the test. If you actually truly went into your kid's school and actually learn, watch what they learned, and teach your child, they teach to the test. They teach so that they can pass these I mean, these Regents and PSSAs and citywide exams. They teach for that. However, my 11-year-old, if you talk to him about budgeting and you talk to him about what a private money lender is and what mortgages are and what interest rates are, he can answer those questions for you. And primarily because we teach him that out. Well, that not just me. I got to give credit where credit is due. My husband also has been teaching him that. Outside of um the school system. You understand what I mean? So, I mean, understand that teaching all ends and begins at home. But where my son earned extra money is not necessarily educating himself, but he earns extra monies in extra duties that he does around the house. That's where he earns his money at.
Yeah,
Oh, so now you willing to pay him for doing chores, but you won't pay him for getting the
Extra
A. Listen to
chores.
me. Let me say it
Listen to
again.
what I
No,
said.
no, no, no. I
Extra.
don't care whether it's extra or not.
Okay.
It's a chore. It's a household duty. You willing to pay him to do shit in the household, but you won't pay him to bring home A's from.
I'm gonna
You
tell you
don't you
why.
feed him?
And
Do
this
you
is
feed him? Do you feed him?
yeah, feed
You
him.
put clothes on him too?
Absolutely.
You do that. You do that. Does he have a
Absolutely.
bed that he sleeps in every night? Does he
Absolutely he
watch
does.
TV, electricity, running water, hot, all that stuff? So
He
so you done
absolutely
already
does.
paid him for the stuff that he's doing in the household, in my opinion. So
Okay.
you gonna point fingers at this woman for paying this cat for the A's.
No, I didn't point fingers at her. I just said we had a debate about it. I didn't
Either
point
way,
fingers. I just said that's just not something that I'm supposed to do. And again, him washing dishes and stuff like that, that's part of the extra. But what I'm talking about, he earns extra money is if he walks the dogs, because the reality of it is those aren't his dogs.
no
So if
matter.
he decides,
He lit there.
I mean,
How, okay.
no, I
Well,
get you.
no, I'm saying this is the rebuttal to what you were saying, because
I
the
mean,
stuff
yeah,
in
it
that.
could be looked at either way. You know what I mean? Either way. Tomatoes, tomatoes is all about the approach and how somebody mindset.
You tell
I
me.
get
You
it.
tell me he put up. You tell me he roughs in a half bathroom in the basement. Then we could talk about you giving him some money. But him walking the dog, I'm not giving him anything for that. DB,
I got you.
DB, what's going on over here? DB, come on, let's weigh in on
What's
this.
up? Hey, how you doing?
Let's
What's going on?
let's weigh in. Let's weigh in on this parenting situation, man. The evolution
Man,
of parenting in America, bro. Talk to
yeah,
me.
yeah. I mean, specifically what y'all talking about, there's really hardly anything that I could think about that people don't move with incentives. You know what I'm saying? Incentives is the nature of people. Like we gotta get something that we strive for. I think the thing is we talking just strictly about money. Like you said, not everybody got the money, but there's other ways you could incentivize the child
Absolutely.
to actually, get the good grades or whatever. You get good grades this year, you go into the movies. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever else, something that we don't do typically. There's other ways to do it. It's just a matter of incentive. I think we probably have a disagreement on the incentives, of which incentives. That's what it sounds like. I'm not sure, but yeah, everybody move incentives. That's a perfect way to get your child. You know what I'm saying?
That's teaching them how to be leaders, if you will. Because if you go into a job and you want to be in the management level, or you want to own your own business and you want to be in the management leadership level, you better damn well know how to do incentives, because that's part of keeping your management team, making your
It,
team want to work for you, not against you.
All right, let's back
it
up
is.
for a minute, DB. Yay, about the topic of keeping your child in the household longer than the age of 18. So I don't know if DB, um, like I said, me personally, my job is to prepare my children for when this country identifies them as adults. You understand what I'm saying? I want to prepare
Mhm.
them for that day. So
Yeah.
what do
Well,
you
if
think?
that's the
What?
case, you're preparing them wrong, because it ain't 18 years old that they compare them as an adult, because you're still responsible until the age of 23.
Not if they're not in school.
No, not if they're not in school, but if they're in school,
No, no,
you're
no,
still
no,
responsible
no,
until
no.
the age
We
of
ain't. We ain't.
23.
Again, you talking about school like that's something that they're supposed to do. I keep telling you, I'm an
I
entrepreneur.
thought you
I'm
said
entrepreneur.
I thought you said DB.
As
Bring it back to
hey,
me.
I,
My
I mean, I
bad,
mean,
DB. My bad. You absolutely correct. Go
Right,
ahead.
bring it back to me. Go ahead. Go ahead, G. What would you say?
folks,
That was a
you already see, man. This topic is starting to heat up a little bit. But so what you were talking about incentives at the time, right? And
Yeah,
how?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and finish, bro. I'll let you finish.
Well, no, actually, you was talking about. I'm sorry.
You
Because
was
you
talking
started to
about
bring
the
up.
age of 18 and kicking them
Well,
out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
Because
What
my thing
mhm.
is like I feel like when a child, if a child is at 18 and don't want to get out the household, there has to be some kind of cutoff to me. There has to be some kind of security where they see there, where they're scared to get out in the world, where they don't feel prepared enough to actually go out and do something.
Mhm.
And like the way I think about it, just keeping in the frame of school, I feel like ideally, I feel like when you're young, you're in grade school, from kindergarten or whatever, that's your first interaction to the world. You get taught the basics, right? By the time you get into high school, you should start being focused on a trade, vocation, any kind of thing to actually prepare you for the actual world. I think the same thing in a household, like at a certain age, you got to be trained to actually go out there and put out to the world, and if and that doesn't limit yourself to age, really, honestly. By the time you 17, you can be out there if you're that prepared. You know what I'm saying? As long as you have the game plan. If you don't set the game plan in your house, that kid is never going to be prepared, because you're never fashioning their future to a point where they ever going to feel like they're ready to actually do something,
Mhm.
because they're going out in the world completely fucking blind. Like you gotta give them that shit from the jump. So I don't even limit that shit to 18.
Mhm.
You could be 16 and go out there and fucking do it if you that much try to actually do it.
I think
You know what I'm saying?
I tell you, like, when my oldest specifically, man, he's the biggest asshole. His personality, I don't like it. You know
You
what I'm
guys
saying?
honest.
And what it is it's just this new generation, man. They just have this air about them. You know what I mean? That yeah, sometimes I can't stand. But see, the reason why I don't bust his chops too much about it is because he gives me everything else. You understand what I'm saying? He goes to school, whether I care about it or not. He gives me the grades. You understand? I allow them to play his games and shit, but it's only on the weekends. You understand what I'm saying? He does his homework. He's not disrespectful. He's just an asshole as far as his, the personality. I don't like his personality. But my thing is, like, he's doing all of that stuff. So I allow him to have his individuality with his personality. And then somewhere in between, the entrepreneurship and the critical thinking exercises happen. All of this is preparation for my hopes that 3 years from now, when he turns 18, that if God forbid I ain't here no more, um, he can move on. You understand? Without confusion. You understand? A lot of these young boys, man, when they lose they pops, whether it's through separation, pops dies or whatever, they on that road by themselves, man, and they gotta figure out. There's a lot of these forks. They gotta make decisions on which path they're gonna take, and if they weren't prepared properly, this is where you start seeing them getting sucked up by the street shit and influenced by the wrong type of individuals. You understand what I'm saying?
So, G, can I ask you a question? If you was to take that same child that you have, you said he's 15, right?
Mhm.
And you dropped him in New York City, can he survive?
Like by himself? No.
Why?
He doesn't have that experience. He doesn't have that
And see,
experience.
that's the unfortunate thing about, and I say just not just you, but me as well. Our kids, unlike DB kids and Anye kids, they're surrounded by the city as well. Our kids aren't. The school bus comes to the front door and pick them up. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like they have, or we drive them to school. They really don't have the street smarts. You see what I'm saying to you? That it would take to be able to survive in the city.
We talking about another thing now. Now we're talking about another thing now because
See, because it goes
unless
back to Anye's
no,
point.
what I mean is when you talk,
In the city, and
I'm not in the
in
city. I'm not
no,
in
I'm
the
not. No,
city.
I know you're not. I'm saying that goes back to Anye's point with the Jordans. I'm just tying it all in with the Jordans. Our kids, they don't go to school and have those issues. You see what I'm saying to you? Whereas if they lived in the inner city, they would have those issues.
Okay, well, here's the thing. But I mean, we're talking about parenting here. I'm talking about
Mhm.
preparing them for once they step out of here and they have to take care of themselves. It doesn't necessarily mean they're moving back to the city. I'm gonna say they're moving to New York, some projects somewhere. That doesn't have to be the case. I'm preparing them for bigger than that. I'm preparing them.
Okay.
I'm preparing them for to be able to be competitive in this country. This be the thing. This is usually what the problem I have when we start talking about even though we've been having these divisive conversations with the ADOS and Pan Africanism and stuff, at the end of the day, it's all a distraction from what it is that we need to be doing and teaching these kids and preparing them for when it's time for them to step out of this household. We arguing about a whole bunch of other shit, right? But at the end of the day, man, we all want our kids to succeed. So we can't. Why can't we speak from that perspective? And leave the disrespect and stuff out of the way. Because we can definitely have a
Absolutely.
conversation about how we want to see our kids do better in life. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm taking up too much
Absolutely.
time. Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead and weigh in a little bit more on this, because I'll talk all day. You know how that goes.
Yeah, society has its standards of, what age is an adult. 18, kick your kids out. That's one fault of past generations of ours that some of them went by that. Hey, you 18. I don't know where the hell you going, but you getting the fuck up out of my house. That's not cool. As a community, we have to set up our own standard infrastructure in these households to say, universally, what is the standard that we're going to set to say, when my child reaches this, now he or she is ready to leave the house. And I do agree that it's a case by case basis. Some
Mhm.
kids may be ready at 19, some kids may be ready at 25. What
I don't know about that part, but they ain't a kid yet.
look, for me,
They
long
grown.
as, long as he or she is productive while in this household, doing something productive outside of this household. Once you start working and bringing in money, you're definitely gonna be paying rent to me and wifey. But I'm the type where if you don't pay this rent over these years, I'm not spending that money. I'm gonna put it in a little bag over here. So when you leave this house, I'm gonna give it right back to you. I'm not keeping that money for myself. It's just another level of teaching responsibility, because even if you were out of the house at 18, you will be paying somebody else. So now ultimately you were paying yourself, and Going
That's why
back
you ain't getting it back.
going going back to infrastructure. If I'm teaching economics, business, investing, and I know that you understand these things, now that I'm giving you this bag back, what are you going to invest that in? Since I've been teaching you about investments, I want to know that you're ready for this world. So a part of that is going to come from what we teach you in this household, what you show us, and real life experiences. Because, for example, my children are homeschooled, so it's very important for me to put them outside of the house at times and put them in real life scenarios around other children and expose them to certain scenarios. Maybe not, you know, the detrimental and real dangerous kind of situations that I seen when I was young, but you know, they're gonna have to learn survival outside of the household.
Right, right. I mean, it's funny you bringing that up because whenever I talk to individuals who homeschool their children, I always ask about the social side of things. Like, do you see do you anticipate issues as far as their social skills because they are being homeschooled? Do you see issues with that? Anticipate any?
You have to anticipate that. My situation is a little bit different because I got 4 of them. Now I would say that would be more so for the household, which is maybe
There's
one
one,
or
right?
two kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My kids, I mean, they're very playful, very social amongst each other. And when I put them in other atmospheres with other children, I'm very mindful of that. I'm watching to see who socializes and how they socialize. So I give them that balance. I'm aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like, back to the whole the experience thing, Shay, because you asked a real important question. If you drop my son, my 15-year-old, off in New York City, do I think he'll be able to survive? And again, my answer is absolutely no. This is one of the things that I do have some kind of regrets for. Yeah, but
Hmm.
when you take a look at the decisions that had to be made around that time, there's no
Right.
regrets. That was the decision that needed to be made, and I made it.
Well, I
Unfortunately,
don't mean in the aspect of G, and I want to be clear. I don't mean in the aspect of your child having to be in the city. I'm gonna give you an example that happened with me that further let me know that I had to prepare my kid, my son, my 11-year-old, a little bit more than what I was preparing them. You ever heard of that saying, "All sense ain't common"?
right?
Or you can have a lot of book smarts, but you don't have any street smarts, so that doesn't make you smart at all.
That's what this show is
So
about. That's what the show
what
is
happened
about.
was absolutely what happened was I took my son when he was a little younger to New York. And again, I live in a gated community, so you can run out in the street and ain't got to worry about looking both ways before you cross the street. You know what I mean? You can the school bus is coming right there, so you can walk on the path and you work. So everybody over here is conscious about the kids, because I live in a gated community. However, we went to New York and I was at a baby shower in Queens, and my son ran out in the middle of the street and went across the street to the park. Again, where we lived, that was normal, but he almost got hit by a car.
Right,
And I think I
right,
took advantage of the
right.
fact of me not teaching him, hey, look both ways before you cross the street. Hey, you got to do this. Because again, where I live at now, they don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying to
Mm-hmm.
you? Everything is getting in the car and go.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going into the parking lot and going into the store or going into our driveway and walking into the house or things of that nature. So that's what I mean by all sense ain't common. You understand what I mean? Because what I took for granted that I did with my other 3 boys because they grew up in New York
Right.
and then we moved out here. So they knew how to travel on a train. They knew how to travel on a bus. They knew how to take public transportation. And then they got the benefit of learning how to drive and all of those things when we got out here. My son doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I bring him to the city at times to let him, well, he still doesn't know how to get on public transportation because I ain't gonna lie, I ain't getting on nobody public transportation. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? But
Too many years up
he
here.
kind of gets the hustle and bustle of the city. When we went to visit my sister for the summer, unfortunately she lives in the projects, but he was walking through the projects. You understand what I'm saying? So he was able to go to the store at the corner store and be able to navigate through that. So he's kind of getting the best of both worlds. But before, I wasn't even allowing myself to do that. You get
Mm-hmm.
where I'm coming from? And I
Right.
realized how neglectful I was by not allowing him to learn streets as well as regular educational common sense. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Well, at this point, well, you changed a little bit. Like, I would never leave him there alone, but we go together. You understand what I'm saying? We go
Right.
together, and he's able to, see certain things, certain experiences. And when you mentioned that crossing the street shit, that shit resonated so well with me because that's what happened to him. That's what happened at
Hmm.
9 years old. We were out there, and him and another another, friend, son of mine or whatever, friend of mine, his son. They're going to the store, and he was completely oblivious to what was really going on in that street. And you look at him and you say, well, damn, man. I know why. He ain't come up around this shit. You understand? Same thing. Get
Can
it?
I ask y'all? Can I ask y'all a question though?
Yeah.
Do they still run across the street now, or did that teach them to not run across the street like that, especially in that kind of setting?
Oh nah, he ain't running across nobody's street now. Like he ain't doing
That,
that.
I mean, that's part of it though. Like we can only teach them certain experiences in the frame that we're in and the environment that we're in. We don't necessarily know what we're going to put them out there into it. So whether they're going to college,
Hmm.
military, or going out to try to find work on your own, there's only so much things you could do. But that's why I also say part of it is getting a game plan, because you can start working on it before they actually get there. But part of
Right.
that is they're going to need that experience to actually just learn it. Like if they've never been experienced, you can't fault anybody for not knowing until they actually get an experience and learn not to do it.
Yeah, but
Thankfully,
I don't
they
want
had
him
the
to get in
opportunity
that
to.
experience and die. You see
No,
what I
I
mean?
get it. No,
See.
listen. I get it, and that's fair. I get it. But again, when they go out there, you don't know exactly what's going to happen with anything
Right.
that they actually do. Like
I
even when I
agree.
mentioned the military, what I'm saying, that they have a high chance of dying there too, right? I mean, when
Absolutely.
even
Absolutely.
if they go to college, the way you see certain colleges and sometimes shootings and all this other shit, you can't guarantee their safety that way either. So I mean,
Right.
that's why I say thankfully they made it. They made it where they can learn that experience, but some of that is getting that experience in order to actually learn what not to do. If that makes sense.
But
Yeah,
here's
it
the,
makes
here's
sense.
the here's the tough, and I gotta say it, just fucked up scenario we in is black parents in America raising black children. Because from what I'm assuming, we all came from around the way. We all came from the hood.
Hmm.
We knew about the positives, but we definitely knew about the negatives and the things we were at risk to in the hood. But in the middle of that, it really taught us survival. Now we say for our children, you know what? I don't want to raise them up in the midst of that, because just like we talked about in the whole Nipsey Hussle conversation, they're at risk to the worst of the worst. Now I get it, like the example you used, Dane, it could be a shooting at a college or elementary school. Those things are such an anomaly compared to like the the,
Yeah, I get it. I agree.
the frequent number of just street violence just happening. So I get it. We want to give our children balance from time to time. We say I'm gonna bring them back to the hood to chill with the family or whatever when we with them or whatever. But they still need that experience to a certain extent by themselves. But we saying as parents, damn, I don't want to give you that experience by yourself and put you at risk, and I get that fucking phone call. So how
Right.
do we, give our children that necessary balance
Here's
in a fucked up scenario?
I'm gonna be honest. This is me being honest. I never wanted my kids to be involved in any type of street shit. Never did.
Mm.
Yeah,
Never wanted that for them in any way, shape, or form. So, I'm cool to some degree with the decision that was made, because when you gotta weigh it all, pros and cons, right?
yeah,
The deficiencies that they have with not being able to cross the street properly at 9 years old, or being able to discern, certain types of dangers, in a city. Okay, maybe they don't have that right now, but what do they have? They had a safe environment to grow up in, still do.
Hmm.
Fresh air, clean situations. And this doesn't mean, this is not about saying that this is something that they couldn't have gotten from
yeah, yeah.
the communities we were in. It just wasn't there at the time. You got to make these decisions, man. And I don't give a fuck if somebody want to point their finger at me and say that I necessarily left the hood. No, I took my kids from the hood. I'm in the hood every fucking day. Now,
Right.
go ahead.
But you know what? Like a situation that happened with me, it was like a double-edged sword. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. So now he's successful, but watch this. My son in New York City, right? And G, you know this experience that I experienced with my son. When he was in New York City, he was acting out, having fights in school and things of that nature. They wasn't calling 911. They wasn't locking him up. Up here, my son got arrested at 10 years old.
Yeah, they wasn't. They
10.
they that yeah, they
They
wasn't
don't.
playing.
So it's like you damned if you do, right? And then you damned if you don't, because now my child at 10 years old had to experience the court system. Whereas in New York City, he would have never had to experience that at the age of 10.
You know what? Let me ask this question though. This gonna fuck you up, Shay. This gonna
Hmm.
fuck you up. So being that getting in trouble in New York City, they were ignoring it, right? But as soon as he came up here, they wasn't playing with that. How much do you think the fact that PA wasn't playing with his ass,
I think it
factored
saved
into,
him.
and that's and
I
see,
think it
and that's
saved
the and
him.
that's the thing.
But I had to get to that reality because here's the thing. It almost ruins his life for the rest of his life. See, because remember, in the state of Pennsylvania, they charge them and they fingerprint these kids. Do you understand? So now when they charge them and they charging them with felonies and all of these things, and they're fingerprinting them at 10 and 11 and 12, now they have, when you run their fingerprints, now it's in the federal database. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So
So,
go ahead. He
yeah,
almost didn't get in the military because of that.
right. But that's because I don't want anything that I'm saying to be saying that I'm criticizing anybody's parenting because at the end everybody wants the best for the child.
Mhm.
I just want to probably eliminate some of that worry sometimes is that part of the only thing that we could really do is teach our child life skills, like you said, the critical thinking skills, teach them about how certain thing moves in the world, that when they get into any kind of system, hopefully they'll be able to manage and do it no matter what they put themselves into.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? That's essentially what I'm saying. So I'm trying to just get rid of that worry because sometimes your child is going to be in a situation nobody ever imagined, and they're going to have to think their way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only give them the building blocks to actually get up out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me build off of that to something that she always likes to bring up: experience and the importance of experience. We talk about, all the things that we risk and all of the dangers of the hood, but we got to give props to a lot of the things that the hood injected in us.
Has to. You have
Like,
to.
individuals just right here. Look at the hustle that the hood injected into us. Look at the survival methods and train of thought that the hood, injected into us. Look at the quick critical thinking that you had to have to survive the hood. These are all these are things that you can't teach your children. They got to go through it.
Right.
But the up scenario again is we don't want to put them in the environment to where they can get shot learning them damn lessons.
Then let me ask you a question, Anya. Why do you homeschool? If you saying that, because in some regards, right, and don't personalize this, we gotta go there. Right?
Oh, it's a good question.
You're saying
Good
that you
question.
you gotta put them in these environments in order for them to learn it. Then why aren't you putting them in school for them to learn those type of environments as well?
Well,
Because you're ostracizing them, and some may say you're ostracizing them from the world.
Well, here's the thing. I'm giving mine a balance. They're not in school for many various reasons.
Okay.
But reasons that they're not in school for, to me, I feel are much more important than just the social reasons. They're at home, number one, for safety reasons. You know what I'm saying? Safety, that's first and foremost. I don't trust none of these fucking teachers. I don't know these teachers. So I'm not trusting you around my child. My child is my life. My child is my number one investment in this world. When they get to the age where I know that they can defend themselves, and physically they can defend themselves.
How old are your kids?
Huh?
How old are your kids?
7, 5, 3, and 2.
Oh, you got babies. See, when I'm thinking
homeschool. No. Yeah. So if I'm still in this country, by the time they get to let's say 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, oh man, going out there because you
gonna make them wait that long?
I'm gonna make them wait that long. Or like I said, on a case by case basis, to I feel okay, this child is ready to go out there. This child is ready to go out there. But like I said, within balance, we still try to keep them in a lot of social environments right now to give them that balance. So it's not just the homeschool experience.
I mean, we just know that with black people are trying to come up with different strategies, different ways to not have to have their kids subjected to the nonsense that the hood can bring. Is what I'm saying. Like, again, I'm always there. No one can ever tell me. I'll be your tour guide in New York City. Whoever the fuck wants to question how often I'm out there. You understand what I'm saying? It was about my children. That's what it was about. Just because I was able to navigate and get through this shit, and I got through this shit with, put like this, man. I was forced to jump off the porch at 12. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I was pulled off the porch by the people in the neighborhood that was just like, yeah, nigga, it's not gonna happen. You ain't gonna be on this block and sit on this porch. You're gonna come down here. You're gonna get dirty with the rest of us. I was forced to do that. You understand?
Okay.
When I think about some of the stuff that, like mentally, because of the way I think, y'all know, I'm involved with the analytics and shit. And I've always, felt like this or thought like this. Never knew how to put it together at a young age. You understand what I'm saying? I was pulled off the porch and thrown into an environment that, I needed at that time to survive. But, because there was nobody, behind the porch in the crib who was going to hold me and cultivate the way that I thought analytically. You understand? I think that there was an opportunity for me and cats who maybe think like me, but didn't have that guidance, didn't have that individual to help cultivate that shit at an early age. And this is why I came to my consciousness so later on in life. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't want my kids to have to deal with that. You have somebody behind the porch who is going to assist you with critical thinking. You don't need to be pulled off the porch into the bullshit. That's not what you need to do to survive. I'm here. I'm right here.
But now here's the thing. With all that we went through and all that we're trying to keep our children safe from, now we look at this generation and we say, damn, this generation is soft as fuck. Like,
Yes.
and
Talk about it.
We say, in this world, hold up. Are they gonna be ready for this world? Are they ready to survive? We got kids, and no, it's no disrespect to anybody, but the suicide rates amongst young black kids is higher than ever before. Some of it is coming from internet bullying. We look back at our generation and how we were ostracized and how you had to toughen up and how you had to just go through it.
Yeah.
Your mama said, if you lost the fight, you better get your ass back out there.
If you go out there and for live fight, I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like I remember my parents, they split up. I'm gonna say 91. I was in first grade, so I was a little kid. So I went from living in the burbs to moving to the hood. I come to the hood the first day of school. The teacher's she's reading the roll call. She tried to say my last name. I got a long African last name. She say my name and fuck it up. All the kids is laughing and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? So they got jokes on me and shit. I go home, I tell my mom, I said, Mom, man, they making fun of me in school. They joking on me. She like, hey, well, you better get some jokes. You better toughen up.
Yeah.
I told her, I was like, nah, man, I want to fight. I want to fight them all. She like, look, sometimes it may come to that, but sometimes you got to leave it to the level of jokes. You got to get jokes. You got to defend yourself.
Exactly. It's funny because we was talking about that off of air, Anya, and I was talking about how this bullying campaign and the anti-bullying and all of this is kind of like softening these kids up. You know what I mean? They can't take it really and truly, if you think about it, right? The world don't work like that. You know what I mean?
It don't.
Everyday world don't work like that.
It don't.
Let me ask y'all a question though, because Anya said, his mom was able to toughen him up, right? His mom was like, go out there and give him that thought to, fight fire with fire and come back. How much you think is the lack of that with these kids that we're talking about?
I think they're afraid now, because here's the thing. Like, I'm gonna give you a perfect example. In the state of Pennsylvania, right? And I can only use Pennsylvania, right? Because that's where I live, versus the state of New York. The parents are afraid because here's the thing. Do you know that they can charge both kids for a fist fight? So if you hit me, I don't have the right to hit you back. Because if I hit you back, I'm in trouble. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If I hit you back, I'm just as much in trouble as you are. Whereas before you hit me, I had every right to hit your ass back. And if you hit me first, then you got in trouble. You see what I'm saying to you? Up here, it don't work like that.
I've heard in other cities or states when one child is accused of bullying, how they trying to bring up charges on that child's parents.
Exactly.
Whoa. On the parents?
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard of this.
So now I need to see, and then somebody has to, give me the list of things that is considered bullying. Because again, the year or so ago, we had this conversation, man. We had this conversation about bullying and how I think the lines have gotten really, really blurred, man, as far as what bullying really is. Like, for me, it just seems like a lot of this shit is just some sensitive shit. What Ye say?
It is.
What Ye say? Ye say he had a long African name and they started getting on him. That would be considered bullying. In this day and age, they're considering that bullying, right?
Correct.
Well, here's the thing. See, that right there is what listen, we used to cut class to go to all three lunches so we could go ahead and rank on motherfuckers. That's what we used to do. You understand what I'm saying? So excuse me if I can't buy into that whole. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna have to get together. Listen, everybody can see that my nose has a very interesting size to it, right?
You got a big ass nose.
All
By the
right.
way. Like, no very interesting
So here's the
size. You
thing.
got a huge ass
Listen,
nose.
they
You
used
know what
to
I mean?
wait. Listen, here's the bullshit. They used to call back in high school. They used to call me Snaz. Yeah, I'm giving you guys something, something to do. He used to call me Snaz
Snaz.
back.
All
There
right,
you
cool.
go. There you go. Right. And that was pretty much it. Like, and imagine if something like that, I allowed something like that to damage me, my confidence level and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's nah, man, fuck all that. We gonna get to it. We gonna get to it.
Yeah.
And you ain't got
But
more.
This is
And let's see who got more
though,
jokes than
man,
me.
because like even back then, I remember. I mean, I remember my thing was that I agree, like the overall potential, like we kind of babying our kids. I still think the social media does change that aspect a little bit because it's consistent. But however, now when I hear this other shit, it kind of makes me do lean to your side a little bit more, because the fact is, if you can't even give your child the 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 basic tenets of defending themselves somehow, then that becomes a fucking problem. If you
Right.
can't get them to you know punch a child that's physically bullying them and defend themselves, that's a fucking problem. If you
Right.
can't get to a point where if a child could verbally defend himself, because some of that seem like that's where it's leaning, then it's a problem, because now you have no choice. Like, you're not giving your child anything for the
Like,
world.
I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Like, stuff that, I'm starting to feel like they pick on my son, if you will. He in school and they was in the bathroom playing with water.
Hmm.
Playing with water and making jokes. You know how back in the days when you say playing with water, we used to have egg fights.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, let's be clear with that, right? Halloween was our fun time. You know what I mean? They playing with water and they gave them both detention for being in the bathroom playing with water.
Wussification
Right.
of America. Let's make sure we talk about it. The wussification
Mhm.
of America.
Yeah.
We are softening these generations
Bro,
coming. They are soft.
it was times in school, elementary, middle school, where either we was out on the football field or in between certain classes, but we would just call a name and everybody jump your ass. You know what I'm saying? Just act to swing.
Right.
And look, I was always the littlest dude in all my classes. If I called my name today, oh shit! But they call your name.
That's it, man.
You gotta man up.
If
You
you
gotta
think
step up
about
to the
it,
challenge, and that transcends into life and into your adulthood.
mhm,
And there are
it,
times where
yeah.
you're gonna have to stand up for yourself, for your family, or for whatever, and it's fight or flight. Which one you gonna choose?
But if you think about the gun violence that is going on now in America, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They have more young people gun violence than they did when we were growing up. Primarily because if you think about it, when we got out of school at 3 o'clock, everybody knew who was getting ready to fight.
3 o'clock.
Because everybody was over there on the block. Everybody
Yup.
took their glasses off. They had their Vaseline on. They did their thing. They got their rumble on. Now you call somebody a name, they ready to shoot you
So
because they
that's
don't know how to handle the embarrassment. They don't know how to handle the disrespect. They don't know how to handle all of these things. So let's tie it back into to what we're talking about, and the raising the kids and all of these things. That also goes back from inside your household.
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
You
Okay.
understand? Yeah.
So that's a good point to build off of. We got a lot of kids in their emotions that can't handle these type of things. So they just say, "Oh, I'm gonna just go get a gun. I'm just gonna go end it all." We have to take
Exactly.
that into play, and it does come from the home. But we also got to take into play the gun violence and the dangers that shit brings, and how that helps with the whole wussification. Because it's like, hold up, yeah, I want to tell my son to go out there and squabble up, but
You
if
can't.
Yeah, and
hold
that's
on, hold on,
that's
Yeah.
hold on,
what I'm
hold on,
saying.
hold on. But if I
Yeah.
tell him to squabble up and he get into that fight, he whoop this kid ass, is this kid gonna come back and shoot my son?
You can't. That's what I mean by you can't, because they grooming them to be soft ass little kids.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
They are.
Well, I mean, listen, man.
I remember, if y'all remember, I think it was in New York, if I'm not mistaken, when the kindergarteners got into a issue, right? And then the father went and shot the other dude because His son disrespected his kid in kindergarten.
But now let me ask you, because now wouldn't that also be a question of access? And that's why I said even the thing about the social media, because with us, even growing up, like if you had issues at school, you still had home that you was good. You know what I'm saying? Where you could get a little safe haven. Now with the social media world, you're constantly connected. You got people that you might not even know that jump on the bandwagon and start, jumping in and saying the same shit about you. I got called a sensitive ass muskrat the other fucking day. And honestly,
Aw.
You know
if
why?
I if
You
I
know
was
why?
you
Why
know what I'm
you
saying?
why you get called a sensitive ass muskrat, D? You gotta tell the whole story, man. Why they call you a
Man,
sensitive muskrat, man?
mainly because I was making a parallel between somebody saying, Jamaicans call us Yankees and we're being dismissive. And I was trying to make the parallel, like, yeah, when I was coming up, you know how many fucking light skin jokes I got? Like, I always had a style only till Drake came.
Why
Drake was
you?
my savior as a
Oh
light skin joke.
Lord.
So
That,
then it
I
became
tell you,
me
y'all
being
guys act
sensitive.
more like females than I
Yo,
do.
I'm gonna tell
You
you,
know what I'm saying?
D,
But
you
then,
gonna
then it
be
became me being sensitive. And when I try to explain what the parallel I'm trying to make, I was like, nobody asked your feminine ass. You know what I mean? And call a muskrat. So you know what I mean? Like that you mean I don't give a fuck either way, right? But I'm saying like I can imagine like if you're young and you know how kids are because kids are assholes anyway. Kids will fucking are vicious to other fucking kids.
Right.
Period. That if you're in a world where you're constantly connected like that and you constantly hearing that shit, how that mentally fucking hear somebody. And not saying it's good, but
I mean, but you could
putting on
always
top.
disconnect though.
But we're talking about kids
BB.
though, man. Come
Yeah.
on, like kids constantly want to stay into the world,
But
and you
then
know
that
that.
also got to do with the parents, don't you think? You know, they
I
buying
do,
these
but
kids cell phones at 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and they got Facebook accounts at 7 and 8 and all of this stuff, and they got Instagram and Snapchat and all of that. So you pigging your kids in at younger ages to deal with this.
man.
But the reality of it is, you're not preparing them if it
essentially, what I'm
happens.
trying to say though is still a matter about the access, and I don't even want to just live it on social media because I'm also saying that with the guns. Like the fact is, back then,
Yeah,
and I can't say there wasn't guns back then, but I don't know if it was to the level that it is now, where you mainly had a fist fight. I mean, you could get stabbed just the same back in the day, but it still
absolutely.
was a matter of access compared to a gun, which you actually have. So that makes that shit even trickier because of all of these different accesses. You know what I mean? Where it changes the shit on top of everything else that we're talking about.
Like, and I agree with you. I mean, I guess I got teased growing up. Like I still got big thick glasses. I don't give a goddamn. You know what I'm saying? But just
Got them,
imagine growing up with
them,
big
them
thick
Harlem
glasses.
Night, them
Shut up,
Harlem Night
Jay.
Red Fox specials. I know what you talk about.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I got called Coke bottle glasses. You know, my nickname was Cher pantyhose, Sonny and Cher. You know, like, yo, we gonna take your glasses and do bottle tops
They
with them.
sound
Like,
like they used to tear your ass up,
they
Shay.
would tear me up in and out. And then I was skinny as fuck.
Right.
So I was skinny and tall. And then back then, big butts wasn't in style. So you could only imagine, oh, you fat. Like I had it. Oh my God. It was
You
horrible.
gotta deal with
But
it
guess
though.
what? But guess what? Had I not endured those things, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today.
Exactly.
And you know,
You understand
this,
what I'm saying to
this,
you? And that's what they're missing in
I,
this world.
I
It's
think this.
I agree.
This what
I
I.
agree. But I'm
necessary evil.
so now let's
Let me
talk
say
about. All
this.
right. So what do we do? Like if you're talking about situations
Oh, you know what,
where
DB? You know what? Before you get
yeah.
into that, let's make that a final thought because I think that we're going to run a little over time. Hopefully not. So let's go ahead and run into these final thoughts, folks. We had a decent conversation so far. We're going to allow DB to go ahead and give us a little bit of those final thoughts on the whole evolution of black parenting in
Uh,
America. Go ahead, brother.
shit. I didn't have a solution. I was basically asking the question, hoping to find one. But I mean, but because this is a tricky thing though. Like now hearing the shit about even the shit that you teach your kid inside, um, it could lead you in jail. That's fucking tricky as shit now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're to a point where I'm starting to think the only thing is the thing that I mentioned before. Like we could only come up with a game plan for our child. We could only prepare our child for that game child. If I was to think real quick, just like when I think about the shit with Killer Mike, that episode where he had with the little kids and the little kid, and this is I forget what grade, but it was a young kid, and he was like, "Yo, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "The president." He's like, "Nah, that ain't gonna happen." And he crushed that kid's dreams right there in his face.
Mm.
Like I kind of disagree with that aspect to a little bit. Like when you're older, yeah, definitely. When you get older, but when you're young, like very very young, I think the best thing you could do is teach that kid then what it takes to actually be present. To know that that kid knows it's not some fantasy dream. Like this is some shit You really got to work to it. You got to work to it. Even if he never become president, he gets the life skill to learn. Okay, I got to put in some work to actually get what the fuck I want. This isn't just I can have a dream and it's going to happen for no fucking thing because we don't know what we putting our kids in. We got to find a game plan and we got to prepare that child for that game plan, prepare the child for the world. That's the only thing I could think of.
DB, I hear you on that. Kind of supporting children's imaginations and things like that. I'm with that, because that's
At
basically
a
what
young age, at a young age,
I
having this
listen to me.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
In other words, he said, don't
I
tell your 23-year-old be like, hey, you could be the president of the United States, and they got 3 felonies and shit, right?
exactly.
Yay,
No, you can't. It's dumb as shit. But anyway, go ahead.
yay, yay. Give me your final thoughts on the evolution of black parenting in America. What's going on, man?
Well, number one, we got to be involved. We got to be heavily involved. We got to have many conversations with our children. Know where your child's head is at. Never look at your child like this is somebody underneath me. He's just a child. She's a child. She's all right. Have conversations. Don't talk at them. Talk with them. Have these conversations to know where your child's mind is. Also, we have to create some type of structure to where we create our own communities. Meaning, hey, let's say, for example, the four of us say, you know what? Man, they building a new subdivision over there with brand new houses and shit. We need to all go move over there. Let's go move over there and raise our children amongst like minds. So now we're in control over the environment because ultimately we have a problem with throwing them in certain environments that we don't control. And there are a lot of evils in these environments. But what about us creating our own type of environments and safe havens for these children?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's solutions to this, but are we willing to sacrifice for our children's future? That's ultimately what the question becomes. Having these conversations, spending more time with your children, it's a sacrifice. When you have a child, life is not about you anymore. It's about those children.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Shay, what's up? Evolution of black parents in America.
I
What's your
think
final
that going
thoughts?
back to the old school, something worked about that old school treatment. And I
Yeah.
think that some of that we have to adapt the old school, but kind of revise it a little bit. Those commercials that it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Mm.
Go back to those kind of commercials, because at 10 o'clock at night, we was in the house listening to those commercials. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say
Um,
this was the best parenting tool I got from my mama when
what's
I
that,
was
the
younger.
belt?
To my ass. No, you see the slipper?
Uh, Mine was
That-
yours was a slipper. Mine was switches from outside. You know what I mean? Like, let's be clear with that. I went and got a small stitch. They used to bring them together and hit me with them. So, I just say, spare the rod, spare the child. I still believe in that aspect. I don't care what nobody say. You know what I mean? Call it corporal punishment, call it what you want. There's a difference between abuse and there's a difference between discipline. And guess what? If I got to whip their ass at home first before they get in the streets, then guess what? I'm going to do that.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, folks, let me put my little spin on it. I just think, that we do understand that there is just a clear difference between the generations that your 35 to 45-year-olds came from versus, this young mumble rap and,
Hey, I'm older than that.
Takashi 6ix9ine Stitches. It's a totally different thing. Some of the stuff that we had to do to survive, I think it was necessary in our generation. And I'll be honest, I don't think that some of those things, some of those skills that we needed to survive because of the neighborhoods and stuff we come to, I'm not sure that, all of that is necessary for the large majority of kids nowadays. And, you can just see that by the way legislation is being changed. We're talking about how, we're accustomed to fist fighting, going home, or going to the nurse's office, getting a couple bruises, bandaged up, go home and come back the next day. Now get into a fight with your peer could potentially put your ass in jail. So, it's pretty different, different strategies. But at the end of the day, man, critical thinking, entrepreneurship, ownership, all that shit is the stuff that you need to be stressing to your children. I don't care how old they are. I like the idea of coding, editing, all that good stuff. Where the future is moving towards. You understand what I'm saying? Not so much about street skills. And don't miss what I'm saying, man. Sooner or later, man, I mean, we already hear motherfuckers from the streets talking about how streets is a myth. You know, when you start having people, so-called gangsters, talking about streets is a myth, it's letting you know that that whole culture, it's not, the integrity of it is not where it once was. And because of that, I think we need to have a shift. And, you know, teaching your kids, you know, how to do street shit, in my opinion, I don't think that's the correct thing now. Teach them that critical thinking shit, the entrepreneurship, that ownership. You know what I'm saying? You know, create their own, create jobs, hire people, you know, do things for your community. Those are the things that black parents in America, if you have evolved, that's the stuff that I think you should be focused on. But folks, yeah.
Let me throw one more thing before you finish that off too.
Okay, bro.
My God, I forgot this. The village mentality, y'all, man. Hey, look, even if it ain't your kid, that's your kid to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Let's look out for all these young children that we see and treat them like they our own. Love them like they our own.
Indeed,
man.
indeed. A partner of mine told me some good stuff, man. Coming up, that, you know, like, two of the best things to invest in is real estate and people, man. And, you know, what do you think, you know, the best people to invest in first? I mean, if you got children, I think it would be them. I think it would be them. You know what I'm saying? But folks, you know, we had a dynamite show, nice conversation. Got my good folks here, DB, Anye, Shay. And of course, folks, make sure y'all check out that youtube.com/reality guru show. And don't forget to hit that bell notification, because I know a few of y'all be missing some of this good content. But at the end of the day, man, we always here for y'all. You know, we hit that reality guru shit. I'm G Cleve. Take care.
I'm on the grind. Can't stop. Young nigga, I cannot lose. I'ma keep